saved. Is that what the Bible teaches? That's not what the Bible teaches. You ever read Romans chapter 11? You ever read the book of Hebrews chapter 10 or chapter 6? You ever read 2 Peter where he tells us that those people who turn back to their sin, for them the last state is worse than the first? They return like a dog to their vomit and like a pig to their mire. You ever read that? You ever read the book? Or are you just sitting in a church pew listening to some guy standing behind a pulpit because you think he's a professional? My friends, we've got a lot to learn in these last days. A lot to learn. And the only way that we're going to learn them is on our knees. And so it is because of these things, and I don't want to get too far into the woods here, off track. But I want us to understand that there is a lot that we need to understand. There's a lot that we need to know that's in the Bible that most Christians have never read before. And it is because of that, once we start learning these things, once we start walking these things out, once we start living these things, we start becoming isolated. The more you know, the more you believe, the more you walk it out, the more you live it, the more people see you living it, speaking about it, talking about it, loving the word of Yahovah God with all your heart, with all your soul, with all your might, the more isolated from the world you become, and sometimes even your family. And once again, our Messiah warns us about these things. He says, a man's enemies will be those of his own household. He says, I have come to set father against mother, and mother against father, and mother-in-law against daughter-in-law. I've come to do this. That's what I've come for. I've come to see who it is that loves me. Who is it that loves my Father? And I'm going to find out who loves him. And he is going to be my brother. He is going to be the one I am going to take into the new kingdom and deliver to Yahovah God, my Father. He is going to be the chosen, the elected, the separated, the divided, the remnant. These are things that separate us. And the devil, through our flesh, oftentimes, will whisper things in our ears. Hey, don't you feel alone? Don't you feel separated? Don't you want to go to the potluck at the church down at the corner? Don't you want to talk about the ball game on Sunday afternoon like everybody else? Don't you want to be part of the country club church that I have built for you? Why do you want to be alone? Why do you want to listen to that old dusty book, that law that's been thrown to the ground, that beginning of the Bible that's nothing but blank white pages? Shh, why? Why? Come back. Come to my church, my country club church, where we have a ball. And Christians today will oftentimes foolishly believe that they are alone. Let me say that again. Good, God-fearing, Messiah-following, cross-bearing Christians who know the truth will oftentimes be led by the devil into thinking that they are alone. My friends, are we alone? I ask you plainly. Take a chair out into the middle of the woods and sit there and listen and observe, and you will know immediately that you are not alone. Elijah knew this. And this is exactly what I want to talk about today. Because again, we hear about this in our own congregation. Where is everybody? I feel so isolated. I feel so alone. No one believes what the Bible says. And I show them in the Bible and I show them the scripture and they walk away. And not only do they walk away, but they mock me and they talk against me. They talk about me behind my back. They think I'm some kind of fool. Elijah was one of the major prophets in the Bible. Did you know that Elijah actually was said to have ran a school for prophets? In 2 Kings chapter 2, verse 3. You know, the name Elijah means, my God is Yahovah. That's what Elijah means. My God is Yahovah. And it was Elijah who did battle with the Canaanite god, whose name was Baal, during the reign of King Ahab in the 9th century BC. And I'd like to just go through this, and I just want to read. I love 1 Kings chapter 18, because this is the big Western duel. I kind of look at this. Have you ever watched the old Westerns where the bad guy has to go out in the middle of the street and draw down with the good guy? Right? This is exactly what we're seeing here in 1 Kings. This is Elijah, and he's going out in the middle of the street, and he's got his guns on, and he's going to do battle with Baal. Okay? And I want you to listen to what happens here. Now, Elijah, again, separated. Elijah was always separate. He was always on the run, always on the run. The birds of the air is what brought Elijah his food to feed him. He had to live by what the birds brought him. And I want you to listen to what Elijah did, and I want you to listen to the depression that Elijah falls into, because he feels like he's the only one left. 1 Kings chapter 18, verse 20. I'm just going to read through some of this, and I want you to please bear with me. Starting with 1 Kings chapter 18, verse 20, it says, So Ahab sent to all the people of Israel, and he gathered the prophets together at Mount Carmel. And Elijah came near to all the people, and he said, How long will you go limping between two different opinions? And again, this is when the house of Israel had fallen prey to worshiping the Canaanite god Baal, right? So Elijah says, How long will you go between two different opinions? He says, If Yahovah is God, then follow him. But if Baal is God, then follow him. And the people did not answer him a word. Then Elijah said to the people, even I, am left a prophet of Yahovah. But Baal's prophets are 450 men. So here's Elijah telling them, look, I'm one guy that still believes in Yahovah God. You have 450 men who are prophets of this false Canaanite god Baal, right? He says, So let 2 bulls be given to us, and let them choose 1 bull for themselves, and cut it in pieces, and lay it on wood, but put no fire to it. And I will prepare the other bull, and I'll lay it on the wood, and I'll put no fire to it. And you call upon the name of your God, and I'll call upon the name of Yahovah, and the God who answers by fire, he is God. And all the people answered, It is well spoken. In other words, they agreed. Okay, that's fine. We're going to accept your challenge. So here comes the duel, right? 2 Kings chapter 18, verse 25, it says, Then Elijah said to the prophets of Baal, Choose for yourselves 1 bull and prepare it first, for you are many. And call upon the name of your God, but put no fire to it. And they took the bull that was given to them, and they prepared it, and called upon the name of Baal from morning until noon. They called upon the name of Baal, saying, O Baal, answer us. But there was no voice, and no one answered. And they limped around the altar that they had made. And at noon, Elijah begins to mock them, saying, Cry aloud, for he's God, right? Maybe you just need to cry a little louder. You know, he's either musing or he is relieving himself. or maybe he's on a journey, or perhaps he's asleep and maybe you need to wake him up. And they cried out louder, and they cut themselves after their custom with swords and lances until the blood gushed out upon them. And as midday passed, they raved on until the time of the offering of the oblation. But there was no voice, and no one answered, and no one paid any attention. Then Elijah said to all the people, Come to me. And all the people came to him. And he prepared the altar of Yahovah that had been thrown down. And Elijah took 12 stones, according to the number of the tribes of the sons of Jacob, to whom the word of Yahovah God came, saying, Israel shall be your name. And the stones he built an altar in the name of Yahovah. And he made a trench about the altar, as great as would contain 2 seahs of seed. And he put the wood in order, and cut the bull in pieces, and laid it on the wood. And he said, Fill 4 jars to the top, to the brim, with water, and I want you to pour it on the burnt offering, and I want you to pour that water on the wood. And so the people did it. And then he said, do it again. Do it a second time. And so they did it a second time. Now we're up to 8 jars of water, covering the bull, covering the wood, covering it in water, right? And he said to him, do it a third time. So now we're up to 12 jars of water. And they're dumping it all over the bull, all over the wood, making the wood wet so you can't even light it. And they did it a third time. And water ran around the altar, and it filled the trench also with water. And at the time of the offering of the oblation, Elijah the prophet came near, and he said, O Yahovah, God of Abraham, Isaac, and Israel, let it be known this day that you are God in Israel, and that I am your servant, and that I have done all these things at your word. Answer me, O Yahovah, answer me, that this people may know that you, Yahovah, are God, and that you have turned their hearts back. Then the fire of Yahovah fell and consumed the burnt offering and the wood and the stones and the dust and licked up the water that was in the trench. And when all the people saw it, they fell on their faces and said, Yahovah is God. He is God. And Elijah said to them, seize the prophets of Baal. Let not one of them escape. And they seized them. And Elijah brought them down to the brook Kishon, and he slayed them right there. My friends, Elijah was one of the only prophets left. And as far as he was concerned, he was the only one left. And he was continuously doing battle with this other god that didn't even exist. It was a trick of the devil, that the devil had caused these people to believe in this Baal who could not help them and was no God at all. And he even proved that to them. And yet still many people, because the king, King Ahab, was married to Jezebel, who was a pagan woman, and because Jezebel was the one who wore the pants in the family, Jezebel was the one that Ahab bowed down to, and Jezebel wanted to kill Elijah, right? Because she knew he was a man of God, and he was against her god, Baal, that she had created, right? Elijah was always on the run, always on the run. And again, the very next day, Jezebel had heard what Elijah had done in slaying the priests of Baal, and she vowed that she was going to kill Elijah that very next day. And Elijah got wind of it, and so Elijah's on the run again. He's running. And I want us to think about what must have been going through the mind of Elijah. I want to jump ahead a little bit forward here into 1 Kings chapter 19, and I want you to hear the mindset of Elijah after continuously being on the run, continuously being isolated, continuously being downtrodden. 1 Kings chapter 19, verse 9. I just want to move down here a little bit, and I want to continue reading. It says, there he came to a cave, and he lodged in it. And behold, the word of Yahovah came to him, and said to him, what are you doing here, Elijah? And he said, I have been very jealous for Yahovah, the God of hosts. For the people of Israel have forsaken your covenant. They've thrown down your altars. They've killed your prophets with the sword. And I, even I, only am left. And they seek my life to take it away. And he said, go out and stand on the mount before Yahovah. And behold, Yahovah passed by, and a great and strong wind tore the mountains and broke in pieces the rocks before Yahovah, but Yahovah was not in the wind. And after the wind, an earthquake, but Yahovah was not in the earthquake. And after the earthquake, a fire, but Yahovah was not in the fire. And after the fire, a sound of a low whisper. And when Elijah heard it, he wrapped his face in his cloak, and he went out, and he stood at the entrance of the cave. And behold, there came a voice that said to him, what are you doing here, Elijah? And Elijah says again, I have been very jealous for Yahovah, the God of hosts, for the people of Israel have forsaken your covenant. They have thrown down your altars. They have killed your prophets with the sword. And I, even I, am left, and they seek my life to take it away. And Yahovah said to him, go,